What is going on, guys? I am back with another video. This time I'm going to be looking at the Mygm sliders and what I've done to create a bit of a, well, it's pretty realistic sliders, and it's very competitive too. I mean, the computer, they'll run all sorts of plays, sets, everything they do, and you can see here looking at some of the game stats, and these sliders, they actually took a long time to just tweak and just get to my liking, and hopefully it'll be your liking too. Alright, so heading over here to the sliders. I'm not sure which one sliders I started off with, but they were on Operation Sports. And you can see here some of the stats, or well, some of the slider numbers that would be needed to recreate these sliders. 3-point successes all for the CPU. Starting off first, 3-point success at 62. Yeah, they make a good amount of 3-pointers, but it really depends on how high you set the offensive consistency, because the computer will be open, but they won't hit it at a consistent rate. So offensive consistency and 3-point success go hand in hand. Inside shot, close, and all those close shot, mid-range success, you don't want to turn those up too high, because if you do, the computer will start taking advantage of you. And then you have body up sensitivity. You want to set that to 100, so it's always a collision. It doesn't feel like you're not getting any contact when playing intense defense. Pass speed, keep that at 50. Alright, so now moving on to the defense for the CPU. This right here was very hard to get, but it seems so simple because the CPU, the offense that I run, pace and space, it creates a lot of confusing on the defensive side, and it gets guys out of position, leading to wide open shots. So here what I had to do was just kind of give them an edge and see what they could do on the defense alone. You see driving, contact shot, inside contact, all that set to 100. This is 50 is where it needs to be to get those perfect defensive settings, or the computer just won't play right, or they won't defend well enough, in my opinion. Alright, so moving on to attributes, and this is another key thing that has to be done right. You see all of them set to 50. That seems to be the golden spot for this game, or well, for this slider set. On-ball defense needs to be set to 100 to ensure that the CPU defense is playing good defense at all time. Offensive and defensive awareness has to be set to 100 also. The guys have to be aware of what's going on in the court. I believe just like in real life, you need to know who's open. Offensive and the defensive rebounds, set that to 1 for the CPU, and that will be also set to 1 for the user, just so it won't create like huge rebounding games on a consistent basis. Offensive consistency at 90, that seems to be the sweet spot. Just it helps guys, the CPU, with hitting wide open shots. And defensive has to be set to 100 to make sure that they know what they're doing on defense. Lateral quickness also at 100, so guys don't get lost or they don't get beat as easily. You still beat guys depending on who you have as a ball handler, but the computer will be much better at defending guys laterally. Alright, now on to tendencies. This is also important when creating these sliders, because you don't want the computer to do one more of something and not enough of the other thing. Like I know how I had it before, they took a lot of inside shots when I had it around 60, and they would just abuse the paint. You don't want that. You want to keep it on a nice even distribution of shot selection, so everything is probably 5 points off at the maximum. You don't want to see more of something. You want the computer just to work the ball around, find good shots, and see what they could do. So play passing lanes, go for on-ball steals, all that is set to 50. A lot of these will be set to 50, but contest shots needs to be set to 100. You want to make sure that the CPU defense is giving their best on the defensive side of the ball, and isn't just like standing there and watching the guys shoot the ball coming off the screen. Just have them contest every shot, at least get their hands up, even if they're not in position. It just gives you a feeling that they're actually trying out there. Backdoor cuts, you want to set that to 30. You don't want the computer over abusing that, and your user defensive awareness won't be as high. So if you set that pretty high or around 50, you'll see a lot more backdoor cuts there. Alright, now for fouls. Don't try and lightly mess around with these sliders. You don't want to have crazy unrealistic amounts of fouls. Shooting foul frequency, that was a tough one to get right, because sometimes it wouldn't be enough shooting fouls when it was clear animations for a shooting foul, or it wouldn't just be it would be way too much shooting fouls. So you just gotta keep it where I have it right there, as you can see there. And the ball movement, don't worry about that. With the ball speed and the player speed, I think it's good where it's at, but you don't have to worry too much about that. I mean, if you want to tweak it, you can, but I'm not too much of a huge fan on like messing with those sliders. Alright, on to the user sliders. You want to give yourself a disadvantage here. So you see mid-range success, 3-point success, layup success, all that set to 40. Dunking traffic frequency and the success 45 to 43. Pass accuracy is, so basically here everything is just below 50. I want to go above 50 because it seems to be default and it doesn't give you much of a challenge, but body of sensitivity, you do want to turn it up a bit more so you don't feel like you're the one getting abused on the defensive side of the ball. Contact shot success, set that at 52. That's the only one I would recommend to have that high. Alright, getting to the defense, you also want to have about the same as the computer here. I mean, you don't want the computer also taking advantage of you on the offensive end. So driving contact and inside contact shot frequency, have those to 100. I mean, if you're playing good defense, you should be warded and the computer should miss. They should not be credited for taking bad shots. And you see the takeoff and the strength release, all that is set to 50. Help defense, set that to 100 so guys know how to rotate and know how to play help defense on here. Alright, so now we're going to look at the attributes for the user side. And you see again, most of this is set at 50. I'm not sure how the custom preset sliders work or what the difficulty is, but I know I had put it on Hall of Fame first, and then once I made adjustments, it had turned into custom. So 50 default, what a lot of these slider options here, that's where you want to have it at. They seem to work nice on the game when you're controlling the game. On-ball defense, put that to 70. That doesn't really have an effect. I mean, if you play good on-ball defense, you should be fine. One thing should be ball handling. I know a lot of steals can come for that. And stamina is set well. Speed, durability. And I noticed with MyGM, guys don't get injured a lot on here with the user team, but everyone around the league gets injured a lot, and I hopefully would like to see that change in the near future. Alright, heading a bit further down, we're going to take a look at the offensive awareness and the defensive awareness. That doesn't need to be as high as the computer because the computer just needs help on knowing what's going on around them. Offensive rebound, defensive rebound, also 1 and 1 as the same. Offensive consistency, set that to 50. I mean, with the offense I run, you get open a lot of times, and you don't want to be drilling the same amount of shot. You want to try and keep it realistic. Defensive consistency also as well. Make that around 70. Lateral quickness, 35. The computer won't really drive on you like that, but if your on-ball defense is good, you should be fine. Now I'm gonna be taking a look at tendencies. Tendencies, I don't really feel like they play much of a role on the user end. Maybe with the shot selection or the type of shots you get as the outcome. But tendencies, they still can help. But as you can see, most of these are set to 50. Attempt putbacks is a bit lower. It's just tendencies. They don't really have an effect on the user side as the other sliders would have. Now onto fouls. This one is perfect where it's at. You want to make sure you have these just exactly like I have them. Ball movement and speed, again, to me that don't really matter. And let's take a look at some of my coach settings. You see the adaptive coaching engine, that should be off. Well, it's all preferences here. I have my offensive play vision and play vision display to all plays full, and the play calling messages, that should be show all. So if the computer running plays for you, you want to make sure you remember that play and what they're running here. Also, one thing with the coach game plans that you might want to do is set the computer the run play frequency to 100, so a play will always be called. I mean, you have constant motion, but with how the game is built now, you could get that without calling plays. Guys do random cuts or screens depending on the offensive set. But yeah, just make sure if you're a guy who wants to see constant motion, just have the run play frequency at 100 and turn auto play calling to on. And also, one more key thing, late in the game, if you need a foul, but you don't have to necessarily foul at the time, you want to make sure you turn off auto fouling so you don't give a free throw. So just make sure that's off. It's all preferences here. I mean, you can see here how I have my controller setter set. I like to have the crossovers on the right stick, just how I was like in previous 2Ks. But I have not really messed with the pass target distance. That's something I haven't really looked in, and probably I would look into it maybe after this video, but I haven't really looked at that. Box out assist to strength, that's at 50, and defensive assist when intense defense, that's at 1. That's at 1. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but my on-ball defense, it seems to be pretty good. Alright, let's take a look at some of these stats here. As you can see, Steph Curry is leading the league with 32 points per game. He's doing pretty well on the season, real life, and then on 2K, which I like. Trying just to replicate real life, or create a sim feeling, you know. League leading rebounders, Hassan Whiteside leads the league with 15, Cousins with 13, and assists per game. James Harden surprisingly leads with 8. LeBron James with 8.1, right behind James Harden as well. And you can take a look at some of these stats here, how the games turn out, and what we've been doing over about the 40 to 50 games that we about played. I mean, I played every game, and these are 12 minutes simulation. Is immersive. Like the strategy, the main thing for me is the strategy, the coach game plan. I mean, coming into every game, creating a different game plan for each and every team. It just makes the game much more enjoyable to play, and it keeps you coming back. The games can quite run you a bit long. They about an hour and 20 minutes, but I don't really play nothing else than 2K, probably just for like an hour a day. Maybe an hour, maybe 4 hours in a week, probably 4 games in a week, just for about an hour. And that's all I'll come on here and do, is just play this. I mean, you can see some of the stats, and that's why I really like looking at some of the numbers and how we're doing compared to other teams around the league. But the coach game plan, one thing they should fix is having it not reset to default in the game. I mean, it always resets, and I have to go back and change it. But we're at the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching, and hopefully you enjoy these sliders.